Hi, welcome back to Chapman Street Adventures.
Actually running pretty good. It's still running choke though, that's not right. So that's going to be the beginning of the project here for this adventure. We're going to try to get this thing running like a kitten. One time a few years back I had the carburetor so tuned I could put it into gear at a car show and literally walk at a person's walking speed through the car show. Putt, 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 putt. It went so well. So I want to get it back to that point, and so I can trust it and drive it once in a while. So that's the adventure. Alright, some years ago, I don't remember how many, I replaced all these all those wires. So these are new wires, but I discovered just now that they are very loose on the plugs, all of them. So I think what I'm going to do, this one especially loose, I'm going to take them. I think I just got to pinch these a little bit. They got a gap right here, so I'm going to just give them a pinch so that it makes better contact with the plugs, and hopefully that'll cure my mess. Something that scares me, and maybe somebody online knowledgeable about these things, this is the condenser wire, and it's bare up in here, and I do not know how it's connected inside under this housing here, and I've never taken it apart, but obviously the car runs, so I'm not guessing that that's not where my issue is. As you can see here, and as you can see here, I think this might be the original coil. Some of the wires in here are very old. These are all original here. The wires that are inside here are all original. And no, I don't take the grease off this because I don't want it to rust. So I just kind of leave the oils and things that leak alone and go from there. So that's this side of the engine. The other side's the carburetor. We'll tackle that here in a minute. So alright, now on the carburetor side. The alternator has two spots to lubricate. Let me see if I'm getting a good shot of that. Nope. Let's go over here. Alright. Alright. Alternator here. We replaced the belt some time ago. Has a lubrication spot here, lubrication spot here. That just takes a drop of oil. Again, this is the original wiring for this car, and there's more. All the wiring going up to the headlights are more or less original. A couple years ago I got the horn working, which was all gummed up. Had the carburetor all rebuilt here a couple years ago, and it's just acting strange to me. It's just not. Oh, I got a little leak here somehow, sitting on top of above the bowl on a little flat right here. There's some liquid, so we'll have to investigate that. I'm probably gonna end up pulling the carburetor off. That literally takes 5 minutes, so probably pull the carburetor off and open it up and see if maybe get it sonic cleaned and see if that doesn't fix my issue. I mean, there's probably just a speck of dust someplace in this thing that got caught before I put the inline filter in it. Obviously it has a glass bowl on the other side, but it doesn't. That didn't filter it out. So that's where we're at today. Other than that, all the gauges and everything work. So I just got to get this carburetor tuned up and figure out why I'm starving of fuel. Obviously, if I'm having to choke it, I'm starving of fuel. So here we go. All right. So what did you guys think about my homemade car cover? I'll tell you what, it's nice to be able to pull this out after a year and a half, or a year anyways, and not having to dust it off before I could even touch it. So let's tighten all these spark plug wires to start with. decided to look under the cap here. The rotor looks fine. The points look actually pretty good in there. They're contacted at the moment. The cap here is in pretty good shape. I think I replaced this not too long ago. A couple 3-4 years ago I replaced this. Mind you, I haven't put 20 miles on it since then. I'm going to take a little cloth and just kind of clean these up. There's a little bit of carbon on them. Nothing serious by any means, but just to cross that off my list. Okay, let's take it. This is a rubber wheel on polishing tool here. I need to get a little light on the subject here. Alright, that's all I'm going to do. Like I say, they weren't terrible. I'm just going to take a little air and blow that out, and we'll call that good for now. Alright, tackling the other side here now. I'm going to wait to lubricate those. I have to get my oil can out of the house, so I'm just going to wait to lubricate everything. But all there is to taking the carburetor out of this thing, believe it or not, take these two cables off here and here. And then there's 2 bolts that go screw up into the manifold here, and the whole carburetor just comes right out. So it's simple, easy peasy. I believe if I remember correctly, I have to take this bracket off. These 2 bolts, or two cables. One's the choke, one's the throttle, and the other one are the 2 bolts on the top here. A little bit of time, but easy peasy. I'm not going to bore you with that, so I'm going to jump ahead. What I always thought interesting here is the fuel line comes up on the other side of this engine into the glass bowl through the fuel pump, and the gas line wraps around the front of this underneath the water pump to the carburetor, which I always thought that's kind of a funky design. You wouldn't think that'd be very safe. I think the heat of the engine would cook this gas and make it, I suppose as long as it's inside of doesn't leak, you're alright. Leaks could be another issue, I guess. There. What am I missing here? Oh, forgot this piece here. It has to be disconnected. I was wrong. Here's another piece. Alright. There we go. Come on. Alright. Yeah, looks like I had a little leak here. That might be part of my problem. I'll show you that in a second here. The gasket here must be leaking. So, again, let's see if I can get this focused for you. There's liquid right here. So I had a leak. That's It's a pretty massive leak. I don't know why I have a leak there. That'll have to be corrected. And you can also see it. Alright, and you can also see on the lip ring here, there's a massive amount of leakage. So I'm probably gonna have to get a new gasket for that, and then which are readily available. You know, see it's got a brass bowl. I'm gonna take this all apart and make sure it's all. A couple of minutes later here, I drain the bowl into my rag, and it looks to me like there's a scum on the bottom here. Yeah, sure enough, look at that. There's a scum in here. I don't know what that's from. Like I said, this car sat now for a couple of years. The scum also goes up into here. You can see it on the float. It's probably just from sitting. I do use non-ethanol gas in this exclusively when I do put gas in it. Right now it's running on very old 2-year-old gas, but these things are bulletproof for the most part. So I'm going to go ahead and get everything cleaned up. I've taken the some of the assembly apart here. I've pulled the fuel pump out, or not the fuel pump, but the accelerator pump. And I discovered that the accelerator pump cylinder right here is bone dry, which means it's not getting gas. So I'm going to have to investigate what could be wrong there. Alright, a little change of plans. I decided to try. I identified a few issues in the carburetor, mostly dirt. I don't know how it got so dirty so fast. I mean, without having run it or anything. But you saw that sludge on the bottom of the bowl. That was in the whole bottom of the, there's a pin in the bottom of the bowl. I wonder if that was being held up. So I reassembled, or I cleaned it up really good with carburetor cleaner, and got rid of all the debris that I could see. I sprayed inside the carburetor, around through all the ports and everything, and I cleaned up the float. The float was really crusty with green too. I don't know what this green is from, but I cleaned that up, and then that way it doesn't have any added weight, which I thought might be causing a problem. Alright, so I got it reassembled in the car. I did not put the air cleaner on currently, which goes back here. I'm thinking this might be part of my problem. I ain't gonna focus, but it seems like it's very heavy, and all that's in there is like a scratch pad, and but it seems very heavy to me, and I think it might be plugged. So I'm going to try it without the air cleaner, just to take that out of the equation, make sure I'm not starving it of air. So now we'll see if I can get it started. It's going to take some pumping to get that bowl filled up, and I think once the bowl fills up it should pop right off. So let's give that a try, shall we? Started back up. I'm still having to choke it a lot. I'm not able to get it the throttle in enough and the choke balanced. So I think what I'm going to try now is I'm going to go to the store and get some spray carburetor cleaner and try spraying the carburetor out while it's running and see if whatever's in there can get flushed out. So that's the next step to try, and I'm hoping I can. Alright. So I've had good success with this Berryman before on my small engines. So we're going to give this a try on here. I'm going to try to I'm going to get it started and see what I can do about getting it to at least run without me being inside. So And I'll get this started. Alright, so what I discovered, I have a small gas leak dripping back here, so I better get that fixed before I continue. Well, so my Berryman let me down. It didn't seem to fix the problem. It still had the same problem where I couldn't get it to idle down. As soon as I tried to get it idle down, it would stall. And even keeping it choked, it seemed like there was a fine line there where I could keep it running on choke, but as soon as I either put the choke in or the fuel line in or the RPMs in, it would stall. So for the third time or fourth time, I lost count, I took the carburetor completely apart. I did some research online and I discovered that, or they kept talking about one of the ports, the little tiny holes in there being plugged. And so what I did is I took it completely apart, took all the brass fittings in there out and off, and stuck a really tiny wire. I don't know if you can even see this, but it's really tiny. And then there was one of the brass pieces in there. I took a piece of, I think this is 16 gauge, I think, and braided wire, and only 2 strands would fit in the hole. And I think that one was plugged. Hard to tell because the wires would bend pretty easily. So here we go again. We're going to give this a try. Again, I'm going to have to crank it a little bit to get the fuel bowl filled up. Oh, and the bowl I think was, or the float in the bowl, I don't think was set correctly. I think it was set too low. So it's supposed to be set at 3/4 of an inch. I think it was set somewhere around 1/2 an inch, maybe a little more. So we're gonna give this a try and let's see what happens. Idle down a little bit. Still running heavy choke and I don't like it. There's something going on, I just don't know what it is. think I'm going to have to break down and find somebody in the neighborhood who can work on this thing. I know that I heard there's one establishment down, car repair, that one of the guys does work on old cars. So the car show tomorrow. If it doesn't rain, I think I'm going to stop out there and see if that guy's around. Other than that, I just get this thing idling. That'd be great to fun drive around. It's no trusting yet. All right, day 2. After sleeping on it a little bit last night, I think I'm going to. I got the carburetor. I mean, I got it down to an idle. That's gaining something. I'm thinking I'm going to drain the fuel out of the tank and get some new fuel in there. The fuel that's in there is old, admittedly. There's not much in there, but been trying to use it up. So what I'm going to do is, these old cars actually have a drain plug on the gas tank. I'm going to see if I can get that loose. If not, I'm going to have to drop the tank with whatever gas is in it and go from there. But that's going to give me an opportunity. The fuel gauge, last time I dropped it, I must have broke a wire or something, and when I put it back up because it stopped working. So I'm going to tackle both those things today. All right, been lucky so far. I got the tank out. As you can see, the tank is in really good shape. No, there's hardly any rust on it at all. Just a little colorations here. I was lucky. This plug, I was able to get it out. It's tight right now because I put it back in, but I got that out. I was able to drain the tank out. Now I went ahead, like I said, the gas fuel gauge is not working correctly, so I took it out. Let me show this to you here. Very simple contraption. It has floats. Oops, I can't hold on to that part. And this makes the gauge go up and down. To me, I feel like it's dragging just a little bit, but as long as these floats are good, we should be okay. I checked the ohms on it already, and as it's working properly. All you do is put a lead on here, put a lead on the base, and then move this, and it'll change the ohms. It goes from 0 to about 15 or 20, something like that. So I'm gonna clean it up. I'm gonna make a new gasket for it here. You can see the gasket's pretty much shot. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean that up, and it might be a grounding issue. So I'll make sure that everything is clean up on the tank and on here. All right, this is the sending units tested fine, and the research that I'm seeing online says it's not grounding, and the gauge is actually going completely to full. The only thing that I could think of, so when I took the tank out last time, I added this fuel gauge or fuel filter. So I'm thinking it was maybe the gas line that was creating my ground. Now there's no power to this. All it does is measure resistance. So what I'm thinking is I added this wire. What I'm going to do is I'm going to attach this to the underside someplace with a screw, and hopefully that creates a better ground for me. Interesting thing about these cars is they're half wood. The sides of the car are wood, and with the exception to the outer skin. So grounding can be an issue sometimes. Well, I got the gas tank back in. I put that wire on it. Gas gauge is still pegging out to full. So apparently that didn't fix it. I'm not sure what I'm going to try next with that. I did put a couple gallons of gas in this in the car. I did not clean out the fuel lines. So I'm just going to take it for a short drive here and run some of that gas through the gas lines. Now I don't know, pretty long line all the way back from the back to all the way around the front here. So I'm going to take a short, just a 5-minute drive, just to see how it behaves. think it was getting better as I drove it. So I think I'm just gonna have to put a few miles on it here now and see if I got it fixed. But she's running. Doesn't drive bad. As long as I can get that choke issue fixed. It's still choking. I still have to run it choked a little bit. Last thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to change out I just got water in here right now, so I can't, so I got to get that changed out. I'm actually going to put real antifreeze in this. Historically, we've always just taken the water out of it. Never put heavy antifreeze in it to start with, but we're going to start that now. I think that's probably the best thing for it. So anyways, I'm going to call this done. I'm at this point in the video, and I'm just going to change that radiator, change it from water to antifreeze. So thanks for watching, thanks for joining me on this adventure, and we'll talk to you soon.